Welcome back to the FloTrack podcast. I'm Kevin. He's Lincoln. FloTrack podcast at gmail.com is our email address. You can find the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever else you listen. You also can watch us, FloTrack.org/FloTrack podcast. Although the background hasn't changed for a while on Lincoln's. And although, is that a new picture actually? Now that I look at it, do you have new artwork behind you, Lincoln?
No, it's the peaches. Oh. It's peaches. We're
okay,
good. It's the same. I can change it soon if we want. If we're getting bored with that, we can go with something else.
I mean, it would be cool to have something running themed behind you that you switch out based on the season or the meet or the latest whereabouts failure.
There you go. Just a giant question mark, perhaps, that I can do that. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, perhaps, or insert athlete's name. Yeah, I could try to work that up. It's not really the style of my wife's art, but we'll see. You know, she creates art solely for the pleasure of those who watch the show on our website. So I know she'll be interested in that. Yeah, no, I'm doing good. Had a good Thanksgiving. The vegan turkey was very good this year, Kevin. I know you were concerned about that. You were wondering how it was going to taste. It was delicious. It lived up to expectations, and no turkeys were harmed in the Shrike household Thanksgiving dinner. So that's always good. And we put up our Christmas tree as well. I don't know where you're at with that, but we picked ours up, and it's looking good.
Yeah, my fatherhood game is strong this year. Tree is up, although I didn't have much to do with that. But Christmas lights are up this year, and Christmas decorations on the outside of our house, which first time ever putting up lights because I'm a homeowner for the first time. And with that becomes all sorts of new responsibilities. So I actually kind of felt some pride when I was the first person on the block with some serious lights, but significant lights with actual effort went into it.
That's outstanding. I mean, I put up lights too. It felt like a lot of work, strung them all around the roof. And then I have new appreciation for people whose houses pop from a distance, because I put up, two 50-foot strings of lights on my roof, and I don't have a huge house. Put it up, and I was surprised how kind of insignificant it looked. I mean, the lights look good, but it's just very people whose houses, like, you walk from 100 yards away and you can see it. They're putting a ton of work into that, and I never really grasped that until this year, because it was my first time putting up lights as well. So I'm just glad to have survived going up on a ladder onto my roof, and that's all I can ask for my first time.
Yeah. No, I'm getting more and more into it now because we have a bunch of trees. So now I'm thinking, okay, can I wrap some of the trees? Can I do something with the branches? There's solar lights that I was not aware of because I'm new to this whole thing. So I don't even need to find a power outlet. I could just put it up wherever I want, really. So this could become a passion of mine, and I did not think that would be the case heading into the holiday season.
I think it's pandemic mania. I can blame some of it on that. It's just wanting to do something with your hands. I got to ask, do you have any inflatables in your yard? Have you gone to that level?
No, I'm anti-inflatables. I think they're a bit tacky. Let's keep it classy here during Christmas.
Okay, fair enough.
No, I don't. No, just kidding. People can do whatever they want. When I was growing up, 2 houses away from me was the house in every neighborhood that goes completely all out and wins the award from the neighborhood association with just these really, really intricate displays. But it wasn't thematic at all. It was both over the top and serious with it had religious symbols for the season, but also like Rudolph chucking a football to Santa. It had everything you'd ever want in 15 by 10 yard grass lawn. It was just incredible how much stuff went into it.
Yeah, maybe those people are getting deals. Like if you buy 3 Grinches, you get a nativity scene free or something like that. I don't know how that exactly works. Exactly. I've seen some of that in my neighborhood. You have Santa, the Grinch, Rudolph, nativity scene, the whole 9 yards. I'm not there yet, although we do have an inflatable. The problem is we don't have an outlet outside my house, so it's just in my son's room, and he loves it. So,
that's why you need the solar one. You need the solar inflatable. So they make solar inflatables. That's the key. Because I'm like you. I have very little power outlet. This is great podcasting, by the way. People are super interested in my power output towards the front of my house or the sides of my house. So I'd have to run crazy amounts of extension cords, or I got to go, the solar route. So I'm excited to see. I'll update later on in the podcast to see how my Christmas light display is going. We got a good email. We got a good email that is off topic but on topic at the same time. Anything having to do with Springfield, Missouri is automatically going to get read in the A block on this show. That's just the rules. That's just the way things work on this FloTrack podcast. Justin wrote in to say Lincoln would be glad to know that despite the Springfield Turkey Trot getting canceled, a group of about 40 runners got together and did it anyway, unofficially, with local celebrity Ned Reynolds yelling the word "bang" to start the race. And he says he heard about it from Ned himself on a local radio show today. Listened to the Turkey Trot podcast. He says on the way to a real live turkey trot in Ozark, very inspirational.
Yeah, so, that's incredible. I can't. It doesn't sound like Justin himself did the unofficial turkey trot, which is good. I mean, 40 people getting together.
No, he went to the one in Ozark.
Yeah,
the one in Ozark.
I guess. Yeah, Ozark's a town over.
With Marty. The Marty Bird Classic, I think is what it's called.
The Marty Bird. Yeah, it finished in poppy fields. It finished in poppy fields. Burnt down poppy fields. That's incredible. I'm just glad to have had any hand in inspiring people just with the turkey trot. It's good to hear Ned is still a source of information in the sports world in Springfield. I know Ned has been retired from his sports desk at KY3 for a number of years, but still on the radio, still just a treasure in the Springfield, Missouri area. I'll try to bring some local Springfield, Missouri flavor. I don't live there anymore, so I can't always, I don't have the ear on the ground. I'd just be hearing things from my parents, but I hear there are fans out there of me giving Springfield updates, so I will try to continue that.
I did notice we had to fill out a document for work, and everybody was putting in their hometown, which for me it was very difficult because, well, my home is where I live currently, so I wrote Austin, but literally nobody else on the document wrote Austin, and you, of course, wrote Springfield, Missouri. I mean, at what age are you from where you're from? I thought that was kind of interesting, an interesting field there.
It is. I noticed what everyone else was putting. And so I was like, well, I guess this is like, where did you grow up? So that's what I did. But I mean, my hometown, is now Taylor, Texas. I mean, I'm a Taylorian, if you will. So that's a great question, and tricky for you because you've grown up in where? Las Vegas, Australia, Eugene,
Arizona.
Arizona. There you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, I went to school in Eugene and then lived in LA for 10 years. So it's, where am I from? Is it where I went to high school, where I went to college, where I went to elementary school? I mean, I spent the most time of my life in LA, but that was after college. So does that count? And then I grew up in Las Vegas, but I haven't been there for years and don't really talk to too many people there at all. So shout out to Justin for writing in. Shout out to Ned Reynolds for trying to out Mike Breen with the bang at the beginning. That's a bold move. He's trying to take I feel like he's trying to take Mike Breen's catchphrase away from him a bit there with the bang at the top. I hope he said it like him too.
Bang! Yeah.
And then there was a Mark Jackson impersonator in the crowd that said, hand down, man down.
Yeah. I doubt it. I somehow doubt it. We're not that sophisticated out there in Southwest Missouri, but we can only hope. All right. There was some running action. I know you were.
Let's do it.
Big into the Delhi half marathon. Did you stay up late watching the Delhi half like I knew you would?
You didn't have to stay up late. It was on in prime time, actually, in the United States. But
there you go.
I didn't. Yes. I thought it was going to be fast. I was paying attention to it for the unintentional comedy element, which you'd have to be a real nerd like I am to see it. But there was a chance in this race, because there were some big names here, that obviously the women's world record would have gone down, which would have made it very confusing because they've already named the 5 finalists for the athlete of the year. And
Right.
one of those women, Ababel Yeshina, who set the world record earlier this year, if she went and did it again, but was not, in that final group, that would have made it a bit strange. And I believe, did Bridget Kosgei make it to the actual start line? I know she was advertised as being in the race because she wasn't even in the final 10. Lincoln?
She dropped out at about
Okay.
8K holding her leg. She's had a busy year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why I guess it has been nearly 2 months since the London Marathon, but call it a year
Mm-hmm.
here. And I guess this little injury she picked up forced her to step off. But I question why she was even here. Obviously, the cash was good. The winners received a very odd and arbitrary $37,000. I guess it's probably obviously that's the amount,
Not
whatever
American.
they had it in, Indian money. That's what it was translated down to. But a $37,000 prize in whatever currency you're using is not insignificant. So maybe that was the temptation. I don't know. And it was also very, very fast. Maybe Kosgei thought she could have gotten a world record and I'll apologize ahead of time that Yaleme Zerv Yehalala, the winner of the women's race, she ran 64:46, the second fastest time in history. She got bronze at the World Half last month, as did the men's winner. And here we go again. Amdework Walalane of Ethiopia again. He ran 58:53. So the times were fast. Maybe was not the, I don't know, the heavy hitters like Yeshina winning that we're all accustomed to and used to based on the previous marks and results. But
Yeah.
It was fast. This is one of those that we probably wouldn't really talk about if it was not for the fact that there's nothing else going on. But you're right. I didn't think of it. It would have posed an awkward situation if the women's record goes down. What if Yeshina would have broken it twice in 1 year?
Yeah.
And then does that aid in her position for the IAAF Athlete of the Year? Probably not. Why do they have a cutoff before the year is up? Should they do it like the Oscars and have the awards from the year prior in February? These are all questions. I think we need a complete overhaul of our system here because you cannot discount Delhi half marathon results, Kevin.
You can't. And I'm wondering if the women's winner in this race, Yahuwah, deserves at least a Zoom invite to the World Athletics Athlete of the Year award, because you have the second fastest time all time coupled with third at the World Half Marathon Championships. That's a pretty good combo there of things that she's done. Now, is she behind Perez Jepchirchir? Yes, I believe she is. Yeah. Is she behind Latensa Bet-Gidey? Yes, I believe she is. But the other three that got invited, Sifan Hassan, and by invited I mean virtual invite for the virtual awards. Sifan Hassan, Yulimar Rojas, Elaine Thompson, Hurrah. You could put Bridget Kosgei ahead of all those three. I think you could put Ababel Yeshina in front of all those three, and you could even probably put Yahuwah in front of all those three when you look at actually what they accomplished this year. Maybe less on Yahuwah, but more on. Bridget Kosgei won the London Marathon, got second in RAK half earlier the year. I know she got DQ'd in the hour run, but that's not enough for top 5 in a year when there was real no competition. She won the only competition that there was in the London Marathon. That's crazy to me.
Maybe she was here to prove just an act of revenge. It didn't end up working out for her. But in a year where most things have gotten canceled, it seems like half marathons haven't really been slowed down. We've had them in Prague. We did the World Half Marathon Championships, where every other world competition was canceled or postponed. And then we have this one. So it feels like we have an outsized number of athletes trying to sneak their way in, or that are getting recognition that otherwise probably wouldn't in a typical year for running fast half marathons.
Nobody else showed up either in a lot of these other events. A lot of these other events were essentially vacant this year, right? On the track. And we talked about it when we broke down the 10 nominees, how many of them were distance runners and we thought, well, they're not just going to only name 4 or 5 distance runners to the final. They're going to have to try to bring in other events, and then they're going to want geographic representation too, which is why you're throwing in Rojas and you're throwing in Elaine Thompson. I mean, it would be hilarious if Thompson won Athlete of the Year this year. And like, literally nobody in 5 years would look back and say, "Oh, 2020, that was Elaine Thompson's best year.
That was the year of Elaine Thompson.
That was an iconic year." Yeah.
What do I remember 2020 for? Elaine Thompson.
I mean, she ran some good times, and her season was incredibly backloaded, but it was not the year that obviously Gidey had, Jepchirchir, or I'd even argue Yeshina or Bridget Kosgei. Not even close.
So wait, so Yeshina is not a finalist? Did I get that right?
So the finalists are Sifan Hassan, Gidey, Thompson Hurrah, Jepchirchir, and Rojas. Yeah.
Yeshina's not I understand the geographical element of it, albeit the fact that everyone's just going to be logging into a Zoom link. But I think for all 5, you need to have at least like a puncher. With Yeshina, you could have made, albeit a slim, argument that she could be Athlete of the Year. I just don't think you can do the same for Elaine Thompson Hurrah, which to me should have been the edge for Yeshina over her. But yeah, I guess the wanting to have event diversity and geographical diversity was the winning thing there for the 5 finalists. Either that, or they just were like, just maybe we're all athletics, just threw it to an intern to just, hey, pick 5 athletes. Make sure you don't leave out Gidey or Sifan Hassan, because they were good this year. But I don't know. I mean, in a year where there hasn't been much, it felt like there should have been more consideration for a world record holder in Yeshina. I mean, do we discount the half marathon? There seems to be a lot of them if we're not taking it seriously. And the fact that Elaine Thompson didn't break a world record. I mean, shouldn't the fact that a half marathoner broke a world record be a consideration? I don't know.
Well, and if you're going to take world records into account, her versus Rojas, I'd probably give the edge to Yeshina. I mean, Rojas's triple jump world record was indoors. She only competed in the triple jump 5 times. One of them she had no mark. She won in Monaco. She won in Madrid, is where she got her world record. But I mean, it was a one performance essentially season for her, in the same way. Okay, you want to say that about Yeshina, saying she had the one world record, but she also showed up at the World Half Marathon Championships against a tough field. Didn't finish strong because she failed. But I mean, world record versus world record, I'd almost favor Yeshina in that equation. And it's not as if Rojas had a season where she jumped 10 times and went 10 for 10, that's one thing. Yeah. But going 4 for 5 in the triple jump, and only competing 3 times outdoors. Now, not as many opportunities. I get it, but it's just it's hard to figure out exactly how we get to these 5 women, is what I'm saying.
Not exactly Athlete of the Year material, even in a year as weird as 2020, I don't think, competing just 5 times. I am thinking more and more it's probably going to be Gidey, but I could see it being Jepchirchir. But we'll see. I just think the track is a little bit more respected than the roads. If we read the tea leaves based on who the finalists are, I think we can probably say that someone who broke a track world record is going to be a little bit more favored, and did so relatively recently. But, I don't want to be too controversial. People have they're the Rojas contingents, the Elaine Thompson contingents. They're going to say they may have competed 4 times, but they deserve it. So,
yeah. Okay, so you talked about the divide between track and road, but where does treadmill fit in there, Lincoln? Because CJ Albertson of the United States broke 2:10 in a marathon on a treadmill.
Yeah, which would be a world record if he was planning on submitting it. This has been a little bit over a week ago, so we are a hair late to the news, but I was just so looking forward to Thanksgiving and all that comes with it. We missed it last week and we had an early week, so we are a little bit late to this, but in case you missed it, CJ Albertson, who was 7th in the trials way back a lifetime ago in February, he's been running a lot of quirky performances. He ran a 50K on the track world record. He posts his things on Strava like most runners do. He's kind of becoming an urban legend in Strava just because he really goes either in runs quirky records or runs really far, really, really fast. Looks like he might have an ultra career if the marathon thing doesn't work out for him. But the marathon thing may work out because he ran 209.58 on a treadmill. It was set to the 1.5 grade, so it wasn't like he was just running on it at 0% and where he would be essentially getting like a downhill pull. He set it on the correct thing. And again, if he planned on submitting it or if it was going to be official, it'd be over 7-minute world record. I mean, it's just completely ridiculous. And, albeit the fact that this guy is not, an A-lister like Galen Rupp or, even an Abdi or anybody like that, I think it's getting to the point where he's running 50K on the track, running 5:13 pace, and now he's running sub 2:10. I don't care if it's on a treadmill, and I don't care if he's listening to music while he's doing it, whatever. Mentally, that's ridiculous, and the time is outstanding. I mean, we freak out when somebody runs sub 2:10, maybe not freak out, but we're excited when somebody runs sub 2:10 in Boston. When you're in a race, this guy was on a marathon listening to Panic at the Disco, questionable choice, and watching Community, which I can't comment on because I've never really watched that show. Apologies. This guy feels like he's a legit threat. Now, obviously, he missed the Olympic team, so I don't know when the next thing is. But when real competitions resume, I think it's somebody you have to take seriously in the vein of like a Scott Fauble, maybe not quite a Jared Ward yet. Obviously, he doesn't have the accomplishments, but if you can run 209 on a treadmill, you can run 209 in a real race and probably faster. So this guy has taken some steps up this 2020 season.
Yeah, your eyes pop when you see anything under 210 for an American man, right? That's been the benchmark for a while. Anything, yeah, like it's just okay, wow, like he's under 210. That seems to be the sweet spot of being competitive. And you're right. I don't think we should get distracted by the fact that he's running in an unorthodox way. Just look at that time. Just look at that performance. And you couple it with the fact that he got 7th in Atlanta, not a easy course there too. So he's coming at it from all different directions. He ran at Arizona State, so it's not like he's completely off the radar, but maybe he's going to be one of those guys in the mold of some of these other successful marathoners we've seen on men's and women's side who they weren't the superstars in college because 5 and 10,000 in cross country weren't the best distance for them. They're these aerobic monsters, and with a little bit of training and outside of that NCAA schedule and the longer distance, they completely thrive because I'm excited to see he's running this marathon project. You said when we're going to see him. We're going to see him in a couple of weeks in Arizona in the marathon project.
I forgot.
Yeah. So in addition to the unorthodox races he signs up for, he's sort of doing the Sarah Hall race frequency plan here, which is run a lot. And that seems to be getting more and more common out there in the marathon world. Maybe the days of just 2 marathons a year are going to be less and less common when people start. Yeah, I've said that for a couple of years now, though. That's been my take. And you're never wrong, Lincoln. When you have takes, you're just ahead. You got a little aggressive, so it just takes a little longer for you to be proven right. That's the takesman's attitude. And with the money involved in the marathon and the longer distances, there's an incentive there to race more than 2 times a year. And when you see what Sarah Hall's doing, seeing perhaps what he's doing, I mean, we're talking about 50K, a marathon on track, and then a marathon on the road, all within a couple months here? That's a lot. That's not the path that most people would take.
That is. I would imagine the treadmill is a little easier to recover. Although,
sure,
when I run 5 miles on a treadmill, I get off and I have sea legs. I think the longest I've ever done, now I'm not in the same quite the same category as CJ Albertson, but believe it or not. But the longest I've ever done on a treadmill, I think, is 8 miles, and I got off feeling like I had journeyed to the moon and back and went into a different dimension. So I can't imagine what it's like to be on for 2+ hours. Have you ever run longer than 10 on a treadmill?
I was trying to remember. I know I've done at least 10 because one of those summers growing up in Las Vegas, my hometown, by the way,
Yeah.
Your window to run in the summer in Las Vegas is about
5 a.m. to 5:30.
Yeah, and if you miss it, you miss it. So I remember there was one summer I completely missed it, and I went to the treadmill in the middle of the day, and I don't know if it was 10 or 12, but I felt like I was there for 10 years. I had Tom Hanks's castaway beard by the time I walked out of the gym at the apartment complex. It was a voyage. And you're right. Sea legs were present. It feels longer. People are wired differently, though. I've talked to people who said, "Oh, I can run on the treadmill, but I get out on the road, I can't do it." So this guy marches to the beat of his own drum. I know. I'm just saying, maybe for him, it fits. It fits with his style. He just seems like he's up for anything, which is the attitude that you'd want for a marathoner in this era. It's just like, give me any sort of weird race and distance, and I'll go for it. So I'm immensely curious when he gets into a race that has people around his ability and is supposed to be flat and fast.
I'm also eager as well, and I mean, I would have to put him as the favorite on the men's side if just based on recent form. He'd be my pick. He'd also be my pick if we're looking to get even weirder. We got people when the pandemic first broke out running marathons in their apartments around their couch. I mean, can this guy break 3 hours running around his sofa? That's my next big thing. I think he could smash a lot of world records. I mean, the indoor record certainly is going to be there for the taking for him if he wants to.
Yeah. He's so good though.
Yeah.
He took a gimmick, which was a treadmill marathon, and the record was 2:17. He's so good, and he made it legit.
That's true.
2:09? That's just okay. That's a great performance. So he would probably do the sofa marathon and run 2:18, and people would be like, "Oh man, I actually did the conversion." That's fast.
He just qualified for the trials. He just qualified for the trials while making dinner.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like he's that level of talent. So I'm excited to see what he does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, certainly
was he on your radar?
No. I mean, the thing with the trials, obviously, you're so focused on the top 3, and the top 10 was filled with kind of relative newcomer names. It wasn't like Fauble finished 6th and Ward was 7th. Those guys were back, and they had bad races. The top 10, you had like newcomers like, Martin Hare, and a lot of people were making excuses like, oh, it's the shoes and this, that, and the other. Well, first off, Albertson runs for Brooks, so you don't have that argument because, they don't have any shoe technology. It's only Nike. They're the only company that has technology. And
he's joking, folks. He's joking before you email him.
And my point being, I kind of had this temptation just to be like, well, I don't know. It's just one race. These guys.
It's a weird year. Yeah.
It was, it was hard to know what to make of it if some of these guys that finished in the top 10 are the future of the U.S. marathon, or if they were just had great performances that will soon be forgotten about. And obviously with the pandemic now, there's not been the follow-up marathons for a lot of these guys. And so you're like, I don't really know what to necessarily make of it 8-9 months on. Well, Albertson's been the guy who's just been ripping away at it no matter what. And he's running so fast in weird situations that you have to take him seriously. And now I expect him, like I said, to win this marathon project, which is the first legit race that a lot of these guys are going to have at the marathon distance since the trials. If he's recovered, it's tough to argue against somebody who's running as fast as he is and is as aerobically strong. My goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you'd love him in a race like Boston, where it's a bit unpredictable. The weather can become a factor. The hills are challenging. Yeah. Are you familiar, Lincoln, with the term EGOT?
Is that the Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm wondering in running, are we ever going to see what Albertson currently has, which is 50K, indoor marathon world record, and treadmill world record? I don't know what the acronym would be. You could probably come up with something interesting like treadmill, indoor, 50K, TI5. I don't know. That's not as cool. Kit, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I was going to say K for the 50K. It's anyway. Will we ever see anybody hold all three at once? Long considered the holy grail of the sport.
It is. Yeah. I would say all it would take was the interest of a certain Eliud Kipchoge, but I don't think he's going to need to prove himself on that. He might be a little scared too, just doesn't want that Albertson smoke. We might, and Albertson may be the guy to do it. I think there's been people quirky enough to try, but a 217er is not competing with CJ Albertson. He may be the guy. We got to convince him to do, winter's coming up. Maybe if an indoor track opens up for him, he's willing to try to go, I don't know, sub 212 on maybe he can go faster. I don't know. I don't know how many laps that is. It's way too many. It's like, God, how many laps would that be? I don't even want to do the math right now, but it's
just crazy. I'm looking this up. November 11th was when he ran the 50K world record. So the turnaround from his 50K to his treadmill marathon was short. Now, prior to that, he hadn't been in a race since the trials, but now he's going to throw in the marathon here in December. And that's going to be about 3 races in a month, totaling a whole bunch of miles.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot, but I think the treadmill factors, he should have. He went an extra mile on this thing too. I'm not sure why. I don't know why. After 26 miles, you're just completely drenched in your own sweat. None of it's been falling off by wind or anything. It was a cool down. But whatever. I think the proof is off of this coming off the 50K that a week and a half later, he was able to rip up a 209. I don't think he's going to be too affected by it. So we shall see. I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm going to think of this marathon project results. I mean, it could be ridiculously fast for someone like him. And I don't know what we do with that information, but I'll look forward to it. Certainly more than I probably would have otherwise, just simply because he's in it.
We've all grown accustomed to these races that are basically PR parties that happen usually overseas in the half or the marathon. Obviously, Dubai is one of them. Delhi is one of them that you were talking about before, but that's a half marathon. And Americans are largely absent from those races. And thus, when you look at those end of the year stats where it says, of the top 500 marathon times in the year, the U.S. only has 1, and it's Galen Rupp on the men's side and 5 on the women's side. But those are a bit misleading because the course and the conditions make such a big difference in the marathon. I wonder if this marathon project is the first time we're going to get a race similar to that. Oh. And if we could finally see those big breakthrough times from American marathoners, and maybe we see, like, what if we see a couple 207s and a 208? It would be, by American standards, quite remarkable because we just haven't seen that. Now, this isn't the Olympic trials in terms of the depth, but especially on the women's side, I think you have 5 of the top 10 women right now in the United States in that race. And on the men's side, you have enough interesting people like Albertson, like Fauble, to get it going quick. This is a game that Americans really haven't played that much. So maybe this is it. Maybe we'll see some huge breakthroughs in times because they've never had this opportunity before.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. 207 would definitely turn my head. I think 208, I'm a little bit too snobby. I'm not going to be. 208 is fine, but if you're advertising this special race, you're calling it a project, I'm going to need to be wowed. I have that expectation on the women's side. I mean, Sarah Hall is going to be there, so I expect to be wowed in that race, just because of how well she's been going. But on the men's side, Yeah, go ahead.
Remember that one year it was like the deepest American trial or the fastest American trials ever, and wasn't Ritz right at 210 even or something? Like, I know I know 208 doesn't wow you as compared to the times from the rest of the world, but it would be historic for the United States if you had
and I think
if you had like four people down there. I mean, and one of them's not Galen Rupp and Jared Ward's not there. That'd be remarkable.
It would. I think we would still get most people calling about the shoes. That this is a referendum on shoe technology that all these people are going to PR. So we'll see how that plays out. But it's not all going to be flowers and excitement. Somebody will find a way to dump on it if it is in fact does exceed or live up to expectations. But yeah, I don't know. I won't know what to think of it. I am, if I'm being honest, I'm hoping it's kind of the coming out party of CJ Albertson as a legit, like, next wave. I know he's already 27, so by next trials he'll be over 30, but kind of hoping to see something that validates what he's been doing and showing that he's taken this massive step since finishing 7th at the trials.
Yeah, if you pull up an all-time list for U.S. men in the marathon, yes, you have Hall up there and Canucci, but then it very quickly gets into the 208 range. Very, very quickly, right? I mean, you have Rupp up there as well, too. But I'm looking at here. I pulled one up. Oh, this is from 2015. But this just gives you an idea. So this is before Rupp's run. But the 10th best time ever by an American as of 2015, male, 209.27. 209.27. Yeah. Ritz was 3 here at 207.47. Mebs 208.37 was 4th. So if you had people run 208 from this list that we're seeing again, which does not include Galen Rupp, does not include Jared Ward, does not include Jake Riley, includes some good runners, but a lot of guys in the 209, 210, 209, 210, 211, 212 range. If you had some of those folks running 208, it would be incredible. I think
it would be, historic based, on U.S. times. I guess I'm just one of those guys that's long since given up at looking at the U.S. lists because it's just depressing, and just because, I think if some of our best runners went to the marathon early, we'd have much faster times. It's more of it's more of a situation where most of the best runners stay on the track until they basically can't go anymore, and then go to the marathon. We were fortunate with Galen Rupp that he didn't even come to the marathon early. He just came to it when his track career was done. And fortunately, he still had some juice left. Most of these people are either college guys that were good but not great and didn't have any opportunities on the track. I mean, weren't going to make any noise in the track, so they had to go straight to the marathon. Or you had guys like Albertson who didn't make much noise in college relative to the guys he's competing against now, and has grown as he's left the college program and maybe added on miles. So it's not like we're obviously this. It's not like we're getting Lopez Lamong, Bernard Lagat, Eric Jenkins, those guys like that at the peak of their career going to the marathon like the African countries are. So that's why we're in this predicament that we're in, where we're looking at 209 and being, gobsmacked like it's some historic performance.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, they haven't had it's a combination of things. Yes, that plays a role in it too. But it's also they're not running those types of races, because when the Americans do show up at the Olympics, I'm talking about the men here, because the women, obviously, it speaks for themselves. They got major marathon wins all over the place and fast times.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking primarily about the men here. But you had Rupp get a medal. You've had Meb win majors and get a medal. You had Jared Ward get 6th at the Olympics. So when they're all in the same race together, Americans can do well. Americans can do well. But part of it is, right, they're not showing up to these races. This race seems more built in that mode of let's see how fast we all can go. But that is a rarity for Americans. So I think we could have some people run really fast. And I'm saying, if you say, oh, this 211 person got in this race and ran 208, obviously some people are going to say shoes. But other people, like myself and probably like you are going to say, okay, yeah, that maybe, part of it, but also they've never had this opportunity. So then you say, well, what would happen to Jared Ward if he was in this race? What would happen to, if Rupp was in this race? Then you'd see that other, jump forward, because if the people in that second tier are running that fast, you'd have to assume that other folks could go and make big jumps in PRs too. That's all I'm saying.
100%. 100%. I just think keeping a focus on the U.S. marathon scene, U.S. men's marathon scene, is a bit like rooting for the Cleveland Browns every year. You just like, why do I continue to put the bag on my head and act like I'm interested in a sub 210? That's the only thing. It's just I don't mean to say that the men's marathon U.S. is a joke. It's just tough to take it too seriously because the chances are just so few and far between. We're hoping for, by comparison, when you're like, oh, we have the 1500 reigning Olympic champion on the track, and we have the best 800 meter runner in the country, to be like, maybe we can get top 5 at a major this year is obviously it's different with Rupp, but or maybe we can run sub 209. It's just tough to be like, I can't. I'm not that desperate of a fan for the men's marathon that I would get excited about. I mean, it would take someone running 206, 205 at this for me to.
But that's what I'm saying. But that's where it leads, is what I'm saying. It starts with a run like this, a performance like this from somebody who's not in the top tier to run that fast. I think the Browns comparison is a little harsh because a lot of this is just the opportunities. It would be one thing if the Americans were going to the majors and getting drilled all the time, but they're not. Like, Fauble has held his own in majors. Ward has held his own in majors. Like, when they are running toe to toe, you put Kipchoge on a pedestal, obviously, but Ryan Hall held his own at majors and did well. Did he win 3 gold medals and a bunch of majors? No, but he's up there with them. When you just look at those end of the year charts, I think it's just really misleading because you think, well, the Americans are a complete non-factor. And they're not. They're there. And even on their worst day, what are they? They're in a group of countries after Kenya and Ethiopia that includes a whole bunch of other countries. So, okay, yeah, they're not as good as the top 2, but they're in there with everybody else, like right there in the mix. And on a good day, they can compete for medals and major championship wins. I don't think it's as dire as you're making it out to be.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, it's a little bit extreme, but we're putting a lot of pressure on this marathon project. It better live up to our expectations. If I see a 2:11 winning time and people are celebrating we gotta we hit the standard. We hit the standard, and it's just like, that's more of what I'm talking about, is like the difficulty of a lot of guys to hit the standard. I mean, that was kind of, tough to swallow and tough to view. I mean, it's still in the grand scheme of things. Yes, you're right. There are some of this is the limited opportunities, right? But other parts of it is still the same. It's Galen Rupp and a whole bunch of other guys. I mean, that's just some dudes. I mean, he's the only one that's going to be competitive right now with the big East African contingent up front. So, which is fine. I mean, that's better than we've had previously. At least I realize Meb was there, Dathan for a bit, Ryan Hall for a bit, but so you could argue there's always been one guy, but I don't know. Would like to see more than one guy.
Oh yeah. All I'm saying is the possibility exists, because when I see a guy break 2:10 on a treadmill and is going to show up and run this fast race with a bunch of other guys who have run around his pace, I have reason for optimism that we're going to see some breakthroughs. That's all. And you're right. I could be wrong. We could go back into the land of the winning time is 2:10:45, and then second place is 2:11:17, and then I will be proven incredibly wrong. But I at least the possibility exists, because 100%. Usually that top tier, they're a little more spread out. Maybe the course isn't as quick. I mean, if 2020 is our guide, they'll probably have horrible weather. It'll start snowing in Arizona the morning of the race. And there'll be a 30-mile-an-hour wind just somehow in their face the entire time, even though it's a loop course, just following them around.
Let's hope not. Yeah, I hope that the weather is ideal.
All right, we'll leave it there. You and I are hosting again tomorrow, so we're going to talk about. We got some stories for tomorrow. We're going to talk about Kilian Jornet. We're going to go deep into the ultra scene this week, Lincoln. Really
excellent.
drill down on that. He tried to break the 24-hour record and lasted 11 hours. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll also talk about people migrating to Flagstaff during the pandemic. I know you're going to do a report about that, and whatever else news comes up as well. So,
yeah, we'll see. I'm sure there'll be a whereabouts case. I'm sure there'll be a whereabouts case between now and then in the next 24 hours. So we'll have that as well.
Oh, that's true. Okay. So keep it locked right here. FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com. Thanks to Alon for producing. Thank you to Lincoln Shrike, whose name was never uttered, unfortunately, by the great Ned Reynolds, but I say it plenty on here. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
See ya.